Hello my friends, LaRuffa here with another straight up solo. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at the solo mode for Fit to Print. Let's go ahead and see how this plays. I'm going to show you the kind of like the score attack normal solo mode. Then I'll also talk to you about the puzzle mode that's included. All right, let's get started. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, I do really appreciate that support. Thank you so much. So what is this game about? This game is basically a real-time game that you are going to play in 3 rounds, and each round is 4 minutes long, and you spend the 4 minutes choosing tiles from this pile in real time, looking at them over your desk, and if you want to keep it, you put it on your desk, and if you don't, you set it back face up on the pile. And that's exactly what you do for multiplayer as it is what you do for solo player. The only difference in solo player is that you are going to take out 5 of each of the 5 spaces, or I'm sorry, shapes of tiles to exclude them from the pile. So you don't get to see those. They're just not in there. So you don't know exactly what's in here. Not like you really would, but it just kind of flavors that up a little bit, which I can understand. Also, whether you want to or not, you can do this both in the solo or the multiplayer, as you can play with some special variable player power, like this one says, receive no penalty for 1 unplaced tile per round. There's lots of other ones. And then there's some type of restriction or maybe enhancement. So for instance, this says you can't play articles that have bad news that touch. And that's what that little blue stamp means. This one for Saturday will say ads may not be placed adjacent to photos. That's another placement restriction for that round only. And this one says score 3 extra points if your move penalty is 0. Okay, so those are things that are out there that will help flavor the game to be different each time you play it. You also will get this tile right here, and then 2 of them, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, that you can pick from. And these tiles are your centerpiece tile, and they have to go someplace covering your star. That is required. And you can decide where that is when it's time to place, but right now I'll put it over here. And usually those things are there to give you some type of bonus points. For instance, this one says that you'll get a point for each green article above the fold. The fold is literally the fold in the board. Now, when you're placing your tiles, you have placement restrictions. And the easiest way for me to show you that is to show you this little picture right here. And let me make sure that it's zoomed in without glare so you can see it. So what this shows is it shows all of the things that you can and can't do. Number 1, as usual, you would expect all the tiles have to go in the grid, and they can't be oblong like in number 1. Number 2, your centerpiece has to cover the star, like I showed you over there. Number 3, articles have to be placed in the correct orientation. You wouldn't find something rolled sideways or flipped upside down or something like that in regards to a newspaper. You won't be able to do that here. So they always have to be placed like you're reading them. Number 4, you can't have 2 of the same type of tile touch. That means 2 of the same color article, 2 photos, 2 ads. They can't touch each other, okay? There are 3 types of articles. There's blue, there's green, and there's pink. And the photos don't matter. They're all one type, photos. And then the ads don't matter. They're all one type, ads. So they can't touch each other. However, they can be diagonal, okay? Now, photos may not be adjacent on any side where you'll have to flip those to resolve issues of scoring. So like, for instance, if you goof up, you're not allowed to put it adjacent on any of the sides. And if you do, you have to flip those over. The other thing is tiles may not go over the fold of the newspaper. Sorry, they may go over the fold of the newspaper, so that's possible. So like this is okay, all right? But there is a card in here that says you can't go over the fold. And then finally, if you find that you can't place the tile legally based on these restrictions, you can always flip it over to at least fill out some white space. But what you can't do is you're not allowed to flip it outside like this, okay? So, and I'm sorry, photos may not be adjacent on any sides, meaning they can't touch each other. Not about the side. The side doesn't matter. It's the adjacency there. So that is that's the placement rules you're dealing with here. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to score points. Points for the types of articles, for the photos, for the centerpiece, and for having the fewest amount of white spaces. Plus, you've got to balance out the good and bad news in your articles. And then finally, you have to generate a certain amount of ad revenue. And so in the solo game, after 3 rounds, you have to at least make 12 in the ad revenue. So let me just show you some examples here. So this is a 2 bad news article worth 2 points and it's blue. This is a 2 good news article. It's also worth 2 points. These can totally go next to each other. And if these are the only 2 articles you have in your player area, when you're done, they will balance and you'll have 0 mood minus points. However, here's some examples of photos before. Well, if I had like, let's say 4 of these and 2 of those, I would have an offset of 2. That would be a -2. So you got to keep an eye out for those. The photos are fairly self-explanatory. They're worth a certain number of points based on the type of tile that's next to it. So this one, you want to put pink tiles and green tiles next to it. This blue wouldn't do you any good. All right. And then the ad tiles, which could be, let's see if we got some ads in here. Here's an ad tile. It clearly shows some ad revenue over here. So like I said, you got to get at least 12 of those by the end of the round. All right. Now in Friday, the first round, you have the smallest area to fill. Saturday adds another line on the outside. And then Sunday, you flip it over and you have the biggest paper. Kind of like you'd expect. Friday paper is smaller than Saturday, smaller than Sunday. So it's basically that type of game. You're going to play for 3 rounds and you're going to try to get the highest score. Now, if you don't want to play real time, you could play it just leisurely if you want, but that would take a lot of the fun and the excitement out of it because you need to be pressed to try to make decisions. And also, when you're taking tiles off here, you're going to stack them until you decide, I'm done. I'm going to switch from the gathering news phase to the layout phase. And when you do that, and actually, I should be clear about that. I don't know what they're really, I always forget. Layout phase is where you put it. Yeah, that's where you're placing it on your desk. The reporting phase is where you're grabbing. So you're going to put things on here until you said, I'm done with the reporting phase. Then you go to layout phase and you shout layout or whatever you want to do. You say, all right, layout. From there on in, whatever you have on your desk is what you have to work with. You're not allowed to add or subtract anymore. And if you have leftover tiles, if you have extras, you keep them for the next round, but you lose a point for each tile you have left over. So that is basically what you are doing. Now, if you don't want to play in that mode, you can also play these solo puzzles that they give you. And so what they do is they show you a specific type of puzzle and they tell you these are all the pieces that you can use and only these pieces. And you're trying to basically get a certain number of score. And if you can get, let's see, 17, you've got the gold medal in this one, 15 for the silver and 12 for the bronze. I did this for my first game and I ended up with 14. Now there is no time penalty on this. This is just kind of how you're supposed to put it together. And when you put it together, you score it and see how you've done. There are up to 6 puzzles right here and they get bigger and bigger. So like the Sunday ones, you have to score more points. There's more tiles to use and they're larger. So these are both Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you can do that. And then there's all these puzzles here too. It's actually, there's 12 puzzles, my mistake. There's 12 puzzles here. So here's 2 more Friday, 2 more Saturday, 2 more Sunday. So lots of different things you can do. And like any other one of these games, although I don't know if these will really apply in the solo mode or not, I guess you could make them apply. Yeah, I guess you could. Why not? You can try for these types of scores and these types of objectives. So if I get 60 or more points, you know, I get that objective, 70 more, 80 more, 35 from articles, etc. So you can keep on trying to do these. Although the ones where you're earning a specific amount of ad revenue, you know, that's not really going to be all that helpful, I suppose, because you kind of game the system. So, you know, these are more or less based on how you're playing with others. But you could probably figure out some stuff there to do. And then there's some scenarios here. These are for multiplayers, but you know, you can try to see, you know, there's just a lot of variety in here of different things that you could try, which I think is cool. And then they also have a family mode and turn-based mode and other different modes, even this news mode, but none of that has to do with the solo. All right, so let me go ahead and I'm going to set my timer on my watch, so you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to set a timer on my watch for 4 minutes, and it'll give you the idea of the kind of thing. Now, that's the stopwatch. We don't want that. That'll give you the kind of idea here that we're going for in regard to the type of, oh, come on, where is it? In the type of feeling you get from this game and how it kind of plays out. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll just narrate this and see how it goes. So, all right. Set a timer for 4 minutes. There we go. Okay, so I flip it over. All right, that's good. We need some ad revenue. Ooh, that's all right. That's plenty of ad revenue. That's 6. I'm definitely going to toss away any more ads that I find. Okay, so, and by the way, I want green articles if at all possible here. So I got a couple greens that are balancing. Don't need that ad. Don't need that ad. Here's stuff for green. That's good. Probably one more. Yeah, that's a blue one. Now let's get some smaller stuff here. It's tough to know exactly. Wow, I'm picking a lot of ads. It's tough to know holy cow, that is ridiculous. I swear I shuffled these. How much, to really put in. And part of the puzzle is trying to figure out, okay, how much do I really have from a space standpoint to, push things into this thing. All right, so I've got a couple of good news, couple of bad news. Okay, maybe one more larger tile. I could use a larger scoring tile for a story. I don't have one of those. All right, that's another bad news one. But I'd like a green. I still think I'm doing okay on time here. Nope. Nope. Here we go. All right, we'll call it a day. Okay, so now we go to the layout. And again, my clock is still running here. So I'm gonna have to figure out how I wanna lay this out in the best way possible. Now it's green above the fold, so I want these things to be at least above the fold, if at all possible, for all my greens. And we'll see what we can do to pull that off. Here, I can't quite do that because you can see it touches, but maybe I'd be better off like this. That puts some more green above the fold. All right, and then I have to make some room for this ad revenue, so that's big. And so maybe I took a little too much green here. You'll have that sometimes. So this one doesn't look like it's going to fit with the current situation that I'm in, but we'll see. I've got some time. All right, so it looks like I'm just a little big. Now it'd be nice if I could find a good way to put this in, but I don't want to sacrifice the 3 points, which I would be doing, and that actually gives me more. So it looks like I just bit off a slight more than I can chew on this. And I can't put that next to there because of that problem. I think that's probably going to be it. So that is going to be a penalty, and I didn't quite get to the 4 minutes, although I've played this game several times, so I am pretty good with the time management, although spatial management didn't help me out there. So how do I score it? Well, I will take a look at the different categories and we'll count them up, and I'll give you a feel for how it goes. Okay. So on the articles, I got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 9. The photo here is worth 1, 2, 3. The centerpiece, I had 1, 2 of those above the article. Now the white space, I had a ton of white space. So the way the solo works, because you're not comparing it to anybody, is that you look at this little chart and see how much did I do? Well, I definitely got more than 8, so I have a -1 on the white space. Also, it says that these kind of articles may not touch. Now I didn't go into that, but if I had some blue articles touching, I'd have to flip them over. That was a condition that I had to deal with. The nice thing is about my press pass is I received no penalty for 1 unplaced tile, so I'm not going to lose 1 point for that. So anyway, white space, I get a -1. Now let's look at that mood. 2, 3, 4, and I was just a little unbalanced. So I had 5 to 4, it's only -1. The leftovers, again, I get 0. So my round total is going to be 12, 14 minus 2 is 12. So not the greatest, but okay to begin. And ad revenue was 3. So there, and it happens to be that was 4 minutes. So there is the round 1 of the 3. And so what you would do then is you will flip all these back over, toss them back in the pile, give those ads a good shuffle, and take this out, put this in, go to the new conditions. You'll keep this, all right? And you'll play it again. And you do that 3 times, and then you can see kind of where you are. It's a beat your own score, so you're trying to figure out, are you doing better or worse? And that's basically the solo mode. All right, let me let you know what I think. So that is fit to print. That tells you pretty much the entirety of multiplayer and solo, because in multiplayer you're doing the exact same thing except you're just competing for others, and you'll be comparing the white space versus looking at the chart, and whoever's got the most points wins. Now the thing with the solo is you have to get a certain amount of ad revenue or you just lose. The person in a multiplayer game, if you have 3 or more, they will lose. If whoever has the least amount of ad revenue automatically loses, and there's up to 6 that can play. If you're playing with 2 players, if there's a more than $5 difference in ad revenue, that person loses 10 points. So it's not bad solo, but I almost enjoy it more. Well, I would say I do enjoy it more with people, because it's kind of a silly game in a lot of ways, where you're kind of pulling tiles and kind of like, oh, I think I'm doing well, or oh, I'm not, or I got too much. It is more social than I would have first imagined. So while it's fine as a solo high score game, I do kind of like it a little more multiplayer. And I don't play a lot of games multiplayer, but this one, being that it was so easy to teach and it has a fun little gimmick of taking tiles, I actually got to the table relatively quickly and played a bunch of games with family members to play it. So there's nothing wrong with it solo. It's just I do think it kind of is a little more fun in a group. Now, I haven't tried any of the variants that they have in the back or anything like that. But the puzzle mode is interesting. But you have to be wanting to work puzzles, so to speak. I kind of like the real time a little bit more, because to me, the most fun thing is trying to keep it in your brain what you're trying to do and judge how much or how few tiles to take, and will everything fit, and did I take enough mood, did I not take enough mood on this side or that side, and then keeping those conditions within you as far as this is my requirement, this is what I can't do, etc. I like that because it's all that to kind of keep in the back of your brain while you're juggling taking tiles. So I think it's fun, and I like the game. I just think it's probably a little bit more fun when you play with other people, especially the idea that one of them could be knocked out if you don't get enough ad revenue. And having just a minimum requirement of 12 is okay, but that's easily solvable. The not knowing when you get to the third round, if am I going to get big time penalty points, or am I going to just lose outright because I don't have enough ad revenue, is I think part of the fun. So anyway, that's my review of Fit to Print. Hopefully it was helpful for you. But regardless, whatever you decide to play in the future, you know that I really hope you have a great time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.